right? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fumbling Through the Galaxy with your host, Severus Snape. Today we're going to be looking at the Gentle Giant 1/7 scale Darth Maul bust from his appearance in Star Wars Rebels. I really enjoy his appearance in that show. I found him to be a little more angular, aged.
Forgive me, it's just... I've been alone so long. It's been years since I've...
Kind of fragile, but at the same time extremely dangerous.
Were you a Jedi?
No, but I was once a Force wielder.
Which I think is the beauty of Darth Maul, is throughout all of his representations, there you can definitely feel the underlying sinister nature of who he is.
Darth Maul lives.
Formerly Darth, now just Maul.
And so no one did that quite as well as Rebels, in my opinion, simply because they really blended the more angular fragility with that lethality or lethalness. I don't know. I'm French, so you'll have to forgive me. In any event, here he is. It is the 1/7 scale bust of Star Wars from the Rebels series. But before we get to this, I want to talk a little bit about Darth Maul. And so if you're someone who wants to look at the toy review, by all means, please skip ahead now. You can see the chapters at the bottom of the video. You can see where we look at the toy, and by all means, I won't be offended if you skip forward. But for those of you who are still here and want to talk a little Maul, let's do that. So Darth Maul, right? So, I mean, here's a guy who was, barely in any of the movies, the prequels, yet was so heavily featured in all the advertising, the toy packaging, just all the double lightsabers, all the marketing and product. Everything was so Maul heavy, and the guy has, I don't know the exact number, but what feels like less than 10 minutes of screen time throughout the entire prequels. So I think a lot of fans felt like that was a massive bait and switch. I can't think of any other character in my time that was so heavily featured in advertisements and product and marketing and was really not at all an integral part of the story. Other than maybe Steven Seagal, and what's that movie he did, Executive Decision, where he had got top billing with Kurt Russell, and he was in the movie for 3 minutes, died in the airplane, which for Seagal, maybe that's a win for all of us. But in any event, I can't really think of any major characters that were so heavily marketed that were really in the movie so little, like Maul was. If you can think of anybody, by all means, please let me know who that is and what movie and which character that was. So anyway, back to Maul. Male Zabrak from Dathomir. Mother was Mother Talzin, who we actually meet and then get introduced to in the story arc in the Clone Wars 3D show.
Bring the water of life.
Really fantastic character. Brother, Savage Opress.
You are the brother I've been searching for.
Who again we get to explore in the Clone Wars 3D series, and again through a couple of story arcs. And another brother, I believe by the name of Firol.
Brother, please.
Who ultimately Savage Opress kills in the show. So in any event, that's his origin story. That's where he was from. We got to explore those people and that planet in both Clone Wars 3D and, of course, Tales of the Empire with Morgan Elsbeth, that we find out is also from that planet and one of the Night Sisters. So, always really well connected and interconnected. It's always fun to see these backstories and these explorations. And then, of course, he's not without controversy. We know that, he was cleaved in half by Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace. We know that he was then brought back in Clone Wars 3D.
I was apprenticed to the most powerful being in the galaxy once. I was
and of course Star Wars Rebels, and we know that in itself was very, very controversial, and again has kind of, you know, one of those things about retconning in the Star Wars universe, which is always controversial. Another thing about nobody ever really dying, and so depending on what side of the fence you're on, you either love or very much dislike, you know, Maul surviving. I myself had no problems with Darth Maul surviving that. I don't think it's inconceivable that a very strong Force user would be able to survive that. I mean, Anakin, for all intents and purposes, was cleaved or lost several limbs and was basically burnt beyond recognition and essentially dead in the prequels, and he also managed to survive with the help of mechanical technology, which is essentially what they did with Maul as well, with his mechanical legs. So I got no problem with that, but again, I understand why the fan base is really split on, you know, Maul surviving, and the retconning and the no one ever dies aspect of it. So I totally get that. So in any event, you know, so Maul, to me, is representative of, you know, what could have been. You know, I was really excited when I heard that, you know, George Lucas had in mind in the sequels to bring back Maul, and then we would have got Darth Talon as his apprentice. So I think there was all these kind of possibilities that were, you know, out there, and that people were really excited about. And then of course we know where the prequels went and what they ended up being. And, you know, I'm certainly not here to discuss the validity of those, but I personally very much enjoyed the Rey Skywalker story. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought Kylo was a great character, very underutilized and underexplored, but nonetheless a fun character. And I think Palpatine being alive was, you know, was in keeping with what he was doing all the time anyways, which was cloning and clone technology. So I had no problem with those things. But again, totally understand people who do. So any event, yeah, that's my preamble on Darth Maul. Really enjoy the character. Thought that Star Wars Rebels did a great job bringing him back. I thought it also gave us an incredible moment of closure between him and Obi-Wan. I thought it was a great expansion of, you know, kind of the moment he had with Ahsoka in the Mandalore arc in Clone Wars 3D, where you're kind of sensing that, you know, he understands like kind of the bigger picture, and that his premonition of what will happen is, it kind of plays out over the course of the story to date. So in any event, I'm curious, you know, did you like Darth Maul? Did you think he was underutilized? Do you think he's become, you know, the symbol of all that's wrong with Star Wars in terms of nobody ever dying and retconning and bringing people back from the dead and so on and so forth? You know, leave me a comment as usual, subscribe, like, and share. And yeah, let's get to the table and have a look at this toy. Okay, so here we are at the table, and here is the packaging. Once again, you all know by now, I collect in box specifically because I love seeing the box art and the packaging they do. And for Gentle Giant, I absolutely love the biography they give us on most of these. And so let's have a read on this one. A deadly, agile Sith Lord trained by the evil Darth Sidious. Darth Maul was a formidable warrior and scheming mastermind. He wielded an intimidating double-bladed lightsaber and fought with a menacing ferocity. Though he fell in battle against Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Zabrak from Dathomir would prove to be much harder to destroy than originally believed. Yeah, just love it. And you know what? I mean, I'll kind of point it out when we look at the figure, and I did in the preamble, but again, like, absolutely bang on from screen to toy. Gentle Giant just doing it right as always. So let's have a look at the figure. So here's the figure out of box. I mean, they just absolutely nailed this. You know, once again, I think for me, the Darth Maul from Rebels, what I really appreciated was they did show him nonetheless in his cunning, kind of powerful self, but also in this kind of fragile, you know, the wear and tear, that his life has had on him up to this point. So I really like the fact that they captured that in this sculpt, and that it really is superbly accurate to the series. And again, like, I mean, the level of detail, right? I mean, you could see the teeth, you know, the markings, you know, everything, just absolutely everything about this bust is top tier. I'm getting back in focus. There we go. So yeah, one of my absolute faves. I think they got them, they nailed them. I'll back them up a little bit here and see, you know, again, this is one where, you know, the lightsabers kind of go in quite easily. And, you know, once again, I say easily and then I fumble and bumble my way through this. But there you go. That's one end of the sabers. And the other saber, and there we go. We'll just back them up, and there's Darth Maul with his twin sabers. The one thing I will say about him is he is extreme. Like the sabers actually make his length quite wide, so I actually display him without the blades, just because, you know, I'm much more interested in kind of the face sculpt that they captured. I mean, you could easily do it with also one of the blades ignited, actually, which would kind of be cool. But I specifically display him without the blades, because it just keeps him more compact. It allows me to save a little more shelf room, and so that's just something that I do for mine. And you may want to consider if you're limited on space, which if you're a collector, you probably are. Okay, so there it is. Darth Maul from Rebels. Another home run by Gentle Giant. Once again, like, subscribe, and share. And until the next one, may the Force be with you always.